Yes, here we go. It is Tuesday. We are live on the bus at 25 to 8. 5 minutes late, that happens. Look who's back. Jonathan Boyce. How the devil are you?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. It's good to be back. It's a while since we've done one of these. It's been a long time coming.
Since you have anyway, mate. You had to be season out.
I've had a year hiatus.
It was a bit like Chris Commons' first full season at Celtic. That's what you kind of did, just a wee disappearing act, mate.
Yeah, but it was a really good first season Chris Commons had, but mine was even better, remember.
Did he not play 6 months? Because he signed for in January for Lenny for 300 grand. Was shit hot, and then the first full season he didn't appear till right at the end. He scored a chip against Rangers, I think.
Yeah, I think he got injured a bit the second.
No, he just freaking went away and did his own thing, a bit like you.
I don't know, maybe he did, but he's always got that ability to turn it on, much like myself. Chris Commons, me and him have a few things in common.
Yeah, true, mate. There's a few things in common. Do you mean that?
I did that.
Commons. Right, okay, do all that good stuff. Gives a like, gives a share, buy some hair, all that, carry on, or buy a quiff. In Jonathan's case, or I don't know what's happening there. But it looks cool, mate. Everyone will be glad to see the quiffs back. That got a mention in the comments as well. Remember, head over to piesports.com, tasty pastry treat, 12.5% off at the checkout. Remember, if you've hit subscribe, remember hit the bell, because you don't miss a show. And of course, remember, if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, it's totally optional. The content's all free. It's $1.99 a month. Anyway, he's back.
Well, Russell, we are now in the summer season and we are looking ahead at another glorious season for Glasgow Celtic. I am sure we are just off the back of another fantastic double and we are now beginning the recruitment. We have heard rumblings across the city of big bucks coming into Ibrox, but you don't really see much being spent there. It seems like most of that dosh is just sitting with the Yanks with no actual substance behind it. Meanwhile, over in the glorious East End of Glasgow, we are now going from strength to strength, looking at getting a few new additions in and even a possible few outgoings. The big question, though, is Brendan Rodgers going to be signing a new deal? We don't know the answer to that one yet, but I'm sure it's coming. And by the way, if we could just get in another striker or a winger in the next few weeks, we are in for one hell of a season.
Oh, he's back. He's back. That was brilliant, mate. I've missed that. And by the way, he's just done that totally off the cuff. I told him 2 minutes before we went live that he needs to have a Wellllll Russell opening gambit sort of arranged. He knew nothing about it, so
with improv for the listeners.
That was brilliant. Like, loads of folk coming in, mate. Like Ryan T's like classic. Liz Donnelly, oh how we've missed this. John Cook, brilliant. Sonny's pissing himself laughing. Michelle's wondering what the hell is going on. I've never seen this before.
I often wonder that, Michelle, when I do them, to be honest. I don't know what's going to come out of our next, to be honest with you.
Yes, very good, very good. Panto season it is not, but close season it is. And I don't know. I think sometimes right now, everyone's getting their knickers a wee bit in a twist, mate. Do you know what I mean? About, no signs. Even Sutty. I like Big Sutty. I love Big Sutty, as you know. And he was like, I am surprised Celtic haven't made more moves yet. The transfer window opened on Monday, I think it was.
Yeah.
What are people expecting? We brought in Ross Doohan. He's came back to the club. That's obviously the direct replacement for Scott Bain, I presume. Yeah. Third choice, and then he'll be behind Sinasolo and Schmeichel. You've then got the Nygren deal, which apparently is very, very close to being done. There was a link with a midfielder. Is it Spertians or something like that? Someone can tell me in the chat. I think he's Armenian. Plays in the Russian league for Krasnodar. Looks a proper player. he would be like sort of 9-10 million quid. But you know, I'm getting a wee bit concerned by that, Jonathan being able to spend the 9-10 million quid. You know, I'm usually the opposite of that. Well, hear me out, because it turns out fucking I was sent a link to the 20-minute twats today, mate. So I had to listen to the nonsense, and there's many reasons why I call them that. I've got a long memory. Can't wait to bump into them one day. But with regards to their podcast, I had to listen to it because I was sent the link, and it did make it was actually a good listen to the guest, that is. He was saying about the coefficient. Now this could lead us into knowing why Brenda's been hesitant to sign a new deal, which I think they speculated on as well. Because the coefficient, Celtic Scotland right now are 17th, and Celtic as a club in the coefficient, like club table, if you like, are 56th or something like that. So Rangers are like 21st. So they're above us in that. Now, what that means is that the coefficient being outside the top 15 again this year, which is likely because we're not going to get all 4 clubs in the leagues, the group stage, are we? No, of course we're not. Yep. Right. So I think you would basically need that. So what it would mean is basically when you're looking at the coefficient, if you finish outside the top 15 again, it's basically it's likely to turn into, maybe even from as early as next season, that the champions of Scotland would enter the qualification for the Champions League with 3 games to play, 3 ties.
Wow, isn't it?
So that's on Celtic. If Celtic are 56th in Europe right now, that's on Celtic. If the coefficient in Scotland's dropped down, but Rangers are still 21st in the club league, then it's on Celtic that the coefficient hasn't been topped up by us. If they've managed to do their part, people could talk about, the more difficult competition. Qualify for the Champions League three times automatically. And we only really tooled up for it, I think, last summer. And even then, it was a wee bit hash-bash towards the end of the window as opposed to a wee bit more organised. But we've not took the competition seriously enough. There is definite reason why you can imagine the coefficient points dropping when you look at how Celtic have treated the competition, I think, over the last decade and a half. So it's all our own doing, this madness. But it could put a manager like Brendan Rodgers off staying for the long haul. I think Celtic would need to make serious inroads in the Champions League to get the points up. You know, the serious inroads, like quarter-final shit. But I can't see that happening. I think you would need Rangers to qualify for it as well, and then probably get out the last 16 to get the last 16 or something as well. Do you know what I mean? To get these points topped up. It's going to be really, really tricky, that. It does frustrate me. Are we maybe, with that in mind, and I'm guessing the club's bean counters having all that in mind, are we maybe looking again at a summer where it actually might be, bizarrely, more prudent not to be, you know, going too gung-ho this window, like I've advocated for? And have we missed the bus, if you like, Jonathan? I know it's the boat, it's the same. If we missed the boat, the bus, whatever you want to call it, on having those 3 years in a row guaranteed group qualification football with Celtic, and those first 2 seasons ahead of it not getting real investment in the playing squad of proper players, proper guys to impact the first team at that sort of price range where, yes, they might have been sold on by now, but we'd banked shitloads on them. I feel for me, we've not, you know, I mean, and basically, not just that, obviously, what they do in those 2 years is they give us a better chance in the Champions League. They give Ange a better chance in his season in the Champions League. They give Rodgers a better chance in his first year back in the Champions League. He's now had 2 campaigns, and you should see the improvement when he gets a few guys that he really wanted. Barry Smith says, no, we have it all wrong. Oh, no, I don't know if he's talking to someone else. But anyway, we're 17th right now in the coefficient, Jonathan. It is a concern. It's Celtic's doing. Could it lead to this summer not being quite as active as possible? If, as I say, it's likely they finish outside the top 15 and they've got 3 ties to play to qualify for the Champions League. We know when we do qualify for it, we don't tool up. If we've got 3 qualifiers to play, we obviously won't rate our chances of getting through. The board never seem to rate our chances of getting through, and it seems to leak throughout the club. What's your take on all that?
Well, I'm hoping Peter Law.
I thought you were about to go into the voice again there.
No.
You were close. It was borderline, mate. Well,
I mean, I've been away for that long. I thought I'd do the whole pod in that. silly little voice and just see how I get on. I'm hoping Peter Lowell isn't listening to you, because I would imagine that's very similar argument to what he might well be putting across a board level, in the respect of what the coefficient is sitting at now. He won't be looking at what's happened in the past. He's not the kind of guy that's going to take the failures on board that have happened in previous years, but potentially with not tooling up and not doing as well in Europe as we perhaps could have done. But I think if he's looking at it now, and the fact the coefficient is in a very poor place, and by all accounts, we've been quite fortunate in respect that Rangers have done very well in Europe over the past few years, certainly better than our exploits in European competitions have been for the most part. So you're looking at it and thinking this could present the ultimate opportunity for the board to back down, not double down, back down on things with Celtic, and potentially look at that and be like, we don't actually need to start spending a lot of money here, because what's the point? And they could almost give up on it. The problem they have, though, Russell, is if they did decide to go down that route, they have an elite level manager, in my opinion, in situ just now. He has 1 year left on his contract that he's promised he will see through, and I believe him, he will see that contract through 100%. You can take my word for it if you don't take Brendan's. But
take my word for it. The big shots back in the room, eh?
Exactly.
Jonathan Boyce back in the pod for 10 minutes and take my word for it.
Exactly. been away for a year. I've been away for a year, keeping an eye on things. And he's definitely going to see the contract out. I'm fairly happy putting my neck on the block there. But if he's not backed correctly, then there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that we are now in the final 12 months of the Brendan Rodgers swan song at Celtic, because ultimately, domestically, he might not have been able to secure a treble in his first 2 seasons, but he's already done all of that in his first spell. I'm sure it annoyed him, the fact he wasn't able to get that over the line in the cup final the end of last season. But really, the only way you've got a chance of keeping Brendan for longer is by showing him how ambitious you are in terms of European ambition. And I think Celtic, to be fair, did all right last summer. I think they did throw some decent money his way, and you did see the results. We were very close to really upsetting Bayern Munich on their own patch and making further progress in the Champions League, which would have been a huge scalp. And I think that's the one thing Rodgers is desperate for. He's not had that big level European result for me yet. You can look back at Martin O'Neill, for example, had Liverpool, had Barcelona. Gordon Strachan had Man United. Lenny, had Barcelona as well as a manager. But when you're looking at Brendan, if you're looking at him from a European football standpoint, there's not as big a name there that jumps out that I think of. What a European night that was under the lights with Brendan Rodgers. He's had some good ones, but he's never had a brilliant one in the way some of his predecessors have had. And for me, Russell, if you're looking at it from that point of view, that's still got to be a scratch. An itch he's wanting to scratch there. And the only way he's going to be able to scratch that itch is if he's backed correctly by the board. And it all then comes back down to what's more important, Russell, do you think, for this board? Is it being conservative in the respect that European football might be getting away from us at Champions League level in future seasons and just backing down on even attempting at it? Or is it more important to throw everything at it in the hopes you can keep your elite level manager in situ for a bit longer?
Yeah, it is interesting that when you say it like that. I think what I was talking about before I came to you, that could be a huge turn off for Brendan, though, if you're looking at, to even get into the Champions League would be that difficult. That's not the sort of challenge he's wanting. He's wanting a wee bit of an easier pathway to then having that opportunity of greatness. Celtic's records in the qualification terms for the Champions League's poor. In qualification terms, it's poor. Even Brendan failed in his third attempt to qualify. It was the first 2 seasons in his first spell, and then of course We had John McGinn had been sold to Villa. I think he'd said Terminado after the first leg. The whole thing was a fucking nightmare. That was AEK, wasn't it?
Yeah.
AEK Athens, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's the sort of side that I mean, that's the sort of side we think on paper we should be beaten by that. It's the sort of side that really does cause bother. And again, I think we're very fortunate as well, having listened to that show earlier, to actually find ourselves in the seeded list. So we basically were in the playoff round, we're in the top 5 ranked clubs, even at the lowly 56th. But that's because I think, wait for these teams, Jonathan, I think it's like because Rijeka in Croatia didn't win their league, or did win their league, and it meant Zagreb one way or the other. Zagreb finished second.
Zagreb didn't win the league, so yeah, I think it ended
Yeah,
up
Zagreb didn't finish. So Zagreb would have got that seed spot ahead of us because they've got a better. Like, fuck off, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, Celtic really need to work on that. And I just feel like they took the Champions League seriously last year. We've seen a huge marked improvement in terms of the performance in it, and I just feel like they've done it just a wee bit too late. And it could have serious damning effects. But this is what happens when you think you can just turn it on, turn it off. Europe's been their constant for Celtic. Celtic's actually had an easier pathway to the Champions League than almost anyone.
Yeah, because pretty much that pathway's been actually paved by other clubs, whether that's been clubs across the city or clubs across the continent. And it's been not a path paved by Celtic on their own terms on many of these occasions. Certainly, in recent years, we've been very much benefiting from other teams' either successes or indeed failures in domestic football and indeed European football.
Well, exactly, mate, and this is what's annoying me, because I'm just like, you've had all the this moment was going to come, and this moment was always going to come where we end up fucking, really kicking ourselves for not paying attention, close enough, and I think I always put it down to this, and it's a term that I'm quite confident when I use it. I think it probably carries a bit of weight, and people can relate to it. I mean, Celtic haven't treated the Champions League with the respect the competition deserves. End of story.
Completely agree.
You want to be at the Champions League. All you want to do is say you're at the table. You've not treated the competition with respect. You've not tooled the club up to even get through the qualifiers properly for a decade and a half. The same board, by the way. They all play musical chairs. And if this comes home to roost, I think it'd be very difficult to see Brendan staying to do 3 qualifiers next year. Next season. I don't think he will. So, but I don't know how we're going to change it. That's almost a guarantee. That's how it's going to end up. So,
yeah, and you're then in a situation where if you have a poor European season this year, you're then going into the summer, and I'm absolutely confident Brendan will deliver domestically again, because he's always has, and he always will, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the few certainties in life is Brendan delivering domestically. But when you get to summer next year, if you're on the back of a poor European campaign, which is perfectly possible, given what's happened in previous years, and then you're also faced with a new manager hunt, how do you then go about selling that to a manager of the same calibre of a Brendan Rodgers?
No, you don't get the same calibre. That's as simple as that. You would have to accept. You would then be looking at
and Postecoglou.
I don't think he would do it. I don't think he would do it.
I think he'll find a club.
He wouldn't do it with the 3 qualifiers either, though. His stock will be, big Europa League face. So yeah, his stock will be too high. In his mind, anyway, to be doing 3 qualifiers for the Champions League at Celtic. It's one of those ones you need to be going down. You would need to go down the road of looking for like young upcoming managers and stuff. Probably going for the targets Rangers do the now. It'd probably be a Russell Martin-esque manager. Do you know what I mean? It would be something like that. I think that and we'll have to find out what it is. Stephen Mitzi comes in, he says, we've earned the right by winning the league, boys. Of course, Stephen, but let's be honest with you, Celtic should be winning that league. Over the last decade and a half spell that we've been referring to. 2 decades. Celtic should have been winning that league. So they've done what they should have done. But then when it came to trickier ties, Celtic weren't tooled up for that properly, weren't prepared properly, didn't treat what winning the league, the outcome of winning the league presented to them, didn't treat that with enough respect, and it cost them. You're absolutely right. They do earn it by winning the league, but I do think it's a league that they should be winning, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But thanks very much for jumping on, Stephen. It's good to have you on the bus, mate, as always. Wee bit of talk here, Jonathan. We'll just go through the chat for a wee bit because there's no structure to the show. You know how it goes.
No, we are very much just two.
I was going to ask you, in fact, how did you rate last season as a whole?
It's a difficult one. I think if the cup finals went our way, you'd have been looking at it and thinking, "Oh, really successful, really enjoyed it." I think the cup final leaves a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth how things finish at the end. But domestically, I think if you said this at the start of the season, you're going to win the league. You'll be in 2 cup finals. One will be against Rangers. One will be against Aberdeen. Both are going to go to penalties. You can only pick one to win. I think we know what 99% of Celtic fans would pick. They wouldn't ask which competitions they were. If they were put in a position where you're only getting one of the cups, they're both going to penalties. One's Rangers, one's Aberdeen. Which one you beat in? We're picking Rangers every day of the week. So I think in terms of domestic football, it was job done. It was job done. European-wise, I thought there was good signs of progress in European football. I really did. I thought we were coming on to games. I think we probably felt a bit hard done by with the luck of the draw when we got to the knockout stages. But the flip side of that is we did get a beneficial draw in the actual league format point. Bayern Munich were there. We could have had them in Germany. We played. That's one of the best away Champions League performances I've seen from a Celtic side. Very much a throwback.
It was encouraging, that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was much more of a throwback to what I remember growing up, where Celtic could really have a go, even in places like Germany and Bayern Munich. Even though the result didn't pan out in our favour, they actually had you believe in. And that's something we've always talked about, was give the fans something to believe in when it comes to these European big night fixtures. And Brendan had us believing at times we were going to pull off a huge upset that night. So I think there's definitely groundwork was laid. I mean, if I was giving it a grade, I'd probably say B plus. I was going for a school grade on it.
I wouldn't know much about them, mate. Wouldn't know much about them.
Wouldn't know much about them. No. Academics was more my expertise in the Boyce household. Which is why I do know a little bit more about them. But looking at it, overall, I think it was a pretty good season. As I say, it's one of those ones when you've come off the back of it at the end, when you've not won the cup, it probably feels a bit more disappointing than it actually is. But when you take a step back, I would say we've done a pretty good job all round. The foundations have been laid for European football, and now it really is all on what we do in the summer as to whether or not we continue to build on those foundations, or whether we just decide to fold and go back a step.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with regards to going forward. But no, I just wanted your thoughts on last season, mate, and I think you've summed it up pretty well, mate. B plus it is. We'll go with that. Brendan won't be happy with that, though.
Oh, Brendan won't be happy with that.
He likes A's. He likes A's.
He only gets A's. He only gets A's.
Speaking of A's and Brendan Rodgers, he was with a Class A FUD in a photo recently who happens to partake in Class A's, I think. Him and
I believe he does.
And then Conor McGregor, bring out the red panties. You get to fight the champion. Big Conor McGregor. And Brendan with a baby, his baby. Is that Brendan? Is Brendan just became a dad again? Is that what the story was?
I'm assuming that was what it was. I didn't really look at the context.
53. 53, new dad on yourself, Brendan, mate. Still got it, son. Love that. Good attitude. Right, okay. We'll go through some of the comments because there is quite a lot coming in thick and fast. And remember, you are welcome to send in your comments into the bus chat, and we will bring up as many as we can. A lot of Wellllll Russells in there as well, of course. In your voice, not that they're saying Wellllll Russell to me. Oh, Michael McCarran. Good evening, gents. Watching all the way from sunny Spain. Good to see you, Michael, mate. And I hope you're having a great holiday, pal. Right, Pete McLaughlin. Know anything about this one, Jonathan? I don't. Celtic are looking at a winger, Raul Moro, again from Valladolid. Apparently, we agreed to deal in January with the Spaniards. Surely it'd be done by now, though, P. McLaughlin, if that was the case. Who knows with Celtic, though? You never know. what does a deal done mean to Celtic? Tell you one thing though, it does say is if we're going to be bringing in Nygren, which or Nygren, I don't know.
I'm not even going to try and correct you because that's spelling's not my strong suit. Pronouncing is even less my
big academic face a minute ago, but now he can't spell. Anyway, Nygren, whatever his name is, he looks like he's someone who that was being described as a winger. And then you've got, if we're to bring in, is it Baaaaack or Wellllll, that'd be another winger. Nicholas Coon's going to go this summer, isn't he?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I think that's a good move for everyone involved, to be honest.
Honestly?
I think so.
Tell me why.
I think Coon wants to go. I've thought that for a few months now that I think he's been wanting to.
What do you base that on?
I just feel something.
It's body language, isn't it?
It's body language, yeah. It's application. It just doesn't seem it's quite there as much as it was at the start of the season. I don't know. I feel like at the start of the season he was unplayable, and maybe it's more recency bias because he hasn't hit those heights over the past few months. But I just feel like there's something not quite right there with him, and I think even it was one of the games with Celtic at Dundee United where he was kind of giving it a little bit back to the fans at Tannadice. And I've just kind of got a niggly feeling that he thinks he's ready to move on from Scottish football and from Celtic. And if that's how he's thinking, we all know how ruthless Brendan Rodgers is when it comes to that side of things. If he thinks that the player wants to move, then Brendan has no qualms in getting rid of them. And if it's going to free up, I think the rumoured fees of about 15 million is what's being talked about from Leipzig.
36, 37 goal contributions last season. 15 million just done.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem a bit low, particularly in today's market when you're looking at a guy, like...
It's an astonishing record he's got. I went through it with the judge last Thursday.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very much in your camp as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it surprises people just how many he's contributed, given how quiet he's been perceived to be anyway over the last couple of months.
Yeah, he was astonished at the record, but he was very much in your camp, Jonathan, where he felt, the right offer. Again, I think he even bandied about the figure of 15 million as well, the judge. I'll be honest, I wonder if we've jumped the gun here as a support base. I mean, not everyone. You can't win, though, can you? I mean, you just can't win if you're a player at times with our support because you hear it all the time. Didn't want a badge kiss, just a badge kisser, and it's all just for the, it's all for show and it's all false. I mean, you've got a guy there just looks cheesed off at himself at times. He looks like he's playing maybe a wee bit with a wee bit of needle, a wee bit. I don't mind that. I don't mind a pissed off footballer, Jonathan. In fact, I quite like them. I quite like pissed off players. I tend to think when you've got a wee chip in your shoulder, you play better. That's all it's looked like it's shown. It seems to be escalated, though, in the minds of the majority of the fan base, to be honest with you, that Nicholas Coon isn't a happy man at Celtic and all this. I mean, I'd be surprised in the back of the season he's just had. The fact he's done so well in the Champions League and featuring it, he'd be chasing a move away. Particularly when you look at his career trajectory, remember, and you look at the spell at Bayern that you only really featured for the Bayern A side, if that makes sense, even though it's not the first team, it's the A side, not the B pluses. And what was the other big club he was at? Ajax, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ajax, and when he was at Ajax, I mean, that didn't work out either. He's now at Celtic, but it's worked fucking amazingly for him for 12 months. Not 18 months. He's been here 18. It's worked out brilliantly for 12. And even then, many are looking at it saying, well, it was only 3/4 of last season or 2/3. I don't know. I would be keen for him to stay for another year. But I suspect that you're absolutely right. He will be gone. I do think it is.
Would you sell for 15?
Personally, no.
No, I don't think it's 15 either. Because
I think Celtic would sell him for 15.
I think they will. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they will sell for 15. But I'd be pushing for more than that, given the markets at the minute. They seem absolutely crazy.
Odsonne Edouard we sold for £18 million. What was that? 4 years ago? It would have been, because he stayed for the COVID season, didn't he?
He stayed for the COVID season and actually probably depreciated his value by doing so because he didn't have a great year, much like most
Yeah, he still finished our top scorer, I think. I think he started about 24, 25 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd be looking for about 18 million for Nicholas Kuhn right now, and I think that's still decent value. Decent value for a player with a goal contribution. We take that out the team, by the way. We need to find those goals and assists. People forget that. Oh, I've got a guy shrugging my shoulders, so I don't want him. He might be just pissed off at life. He might just be fucking, when a player just play a wee bit on the edge. Nothing wrong with that. Like me going to rant, but the wee fella back in the day, maybe it just suited my game, Jonathan, on here. Maybe that's why we had 200 live back then, The good old days, mate.
The good old
days. Playing on the Bhoycie playing on the edge. Maybe it was just better then, So maybe Nicholas Kuhn just playing a wee bit on the edge, got his best results. Now we've all decided we're willing to give up 35 to 40 goal contributions in a season. Give what you wish for.
It's a lot to lose, and I guess some people can think that can be replaceable with the standard of the Scottish League. People might turn around and say you can replace that with somebody else, but it's not proven easy. I would turn around and say that. I think out wide we were certainly lacking a bit towards the end of the season when the wingers weren't really showing up, and we certainly don't have a lot of options in there. You were actually looking at an aging James Forrest being one of the better options towards the end of the season, and we can't really sustain that for an awful lot longer with Forrest. As much as I do like wee Jamesy, and I was delighted for him to get his goal at the end of the.
Oh, what a buzz that was, mate!
It was one of the best. It was actually one of the best moments of the season in a game that didn't have any huge significance. And if anybody else had scored, nobody would have remembered it.
It went crazy, eh?
It was mental. It was like a.
Were you at the game?
No, I was in O'Neill's down the Merchant City, but it was like a Champions League goal going in. It really was. They were properly.
It was the same. I was in Turkey at the Parkhead Bar. Brilliant place, man. Honestly, fucking amazing. In Marmaris, highly recommend if you're ever heading out there. But honestly, Jonathan, that place went fucking mental. I'd been sitting around like a wee smart ass telling everyone, it'll come, he'll score. And it was like, shot. Yeah, or not saying shot, but like, doubtful. So I stuck 20 quid on it, of course. Just to be a right smart ass. And of course, he scored. Yeah. I was getting plenty of hugs, mate. Plenty of hugs in the old Parkhead Bar. It was worth it.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's a nice story that Forrest got at that moment, but it's not something you can rely on. We can't keep romanticising on James Forrest coming up.
Is it romanticising on him, or if he does stay seriously fully fit? What's wrong with what he's been contributing? Because I don't see anything.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I just wouldn't be overly wanting to be too dependent on him.
Why?
Because I don't think he's got the legs really to do the full 90 minutes anymore. I think that.
Why?
I think it's been proven just by the fact he's been substituted quite often in games, or he's came off the bench. He's not seen out 90 minutes very often in recent years. Certainly not last season, even when there was ample opportunity for him to do so when we were short on wingers. Brendan would still usually either start him and hook him about 60, 70 minutes, or he'd bring him off the bench. I don't think Brendan wants to be in a position where he's fully relying on Forrest. I think he likes having him.
He's only 33, by the way.
Yeah, and I think it depends where you're playing as well. I think out wide it's harder because for him his best attribute for us is dropping the shoulder and running past the man, and that catches up with him quicker when you're younger, when you get older, than if he was playing. If he's a holding midfielder, for example, that position is more about what's going on up here in your head a lot of the time and getting yourself into the right positions ahead of time. Whereas what he's got to do is more of a graft with his actual expended of energy and a lot more running for me that's involved there. And that's always been his biggest attribute is his turn of pace, which is naturally going to decline. Father time catches up with everyone. And the fact he has still been able to achieve as much success as he has, even with that same brilliant trick that he has, where he is able to drop that shoulder and run past people. The younger players coming through are going to be that little bit quicker, which means Forrest has to play a little bit smarter, which he is more than capable of doing, by the way. But I think if you're looking at the future here over the next 12 months, I would be amazed if Brendan Rodgers wants to fully hang his hat on James Forrest as his, one of his top three, I would say, wingers. I think he likes having him there as an impact player off the bench. When the fullback's legs are tiring, that's when you can turn to Jamesy, and Jamesy can still produce those moments of good. And the other thing I like about Forrest is when games are close and they're on a knife edge, like that one was with St Mirren, is he's one of those guys that keeps his cool under pressure. He's always got an eye for a pass, or he knows when to shoot. He's always one of those guys you don't think panics as much as he used to. I remember he used to always call him a rabbit in the headlights when he was younger. But I think he's one of those now mature players that you can safely say is a good one to have off the bench if you're needing somebody to turn to in a time of need. But here's an interesting one. It was one I was actually thinking about as well, Russell, just talking about for us, is when you're looking at the actual youth academy. It's obviously Forrest is a great example of somebody that's brilliant that came through that academy, and obviously Tierney coming back, another excellent example. Callum McGregor, another brilliant example in there. But it seems like that's a bit of a dying breed of player coming through the youth facilities at the minute, because we're looking at it and we're saying we need to buy all these players, but you just wonder why is the academy, do you think, not producing anybody anymore? Because it doesn't seem like we're getting really anyone through. I know we've had glimpses with, Ben Doak, for example, who ended up going out to Liverpool very quickly after making his debut, and there was no one, Ramon Vega, wasn't it, was there as well. But there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of ones coming through the teams into the first team, and I just wonder why we don't have more opportunities for youngsters, particularly last season when the league was won and we could have potentially looked to put a youngster or two in.
There's a couple of things. I mean, I think if we look at the environment that the B team, let's just call it that, is playing in, whether the standard's great and whether they're actually performing particularly well there. I think there's also this worry with Celtic. I wonder if this could be nonsense, of course, and coming from me, it definitely could be. I think there's a worry to integrate them into the team, not just from there's so much pressure riding on every game, we can't take the risk of putting someone new in. I actually think when I look at the younger players, I think they're almost scared to put them in the shop window. If you look at how quickly the likes of Ben Doak was snapped up, there's someone else, I think. Who's the most recent one?
There was the other one that went to Watford. I got my famous.
Anyway, there's a few. There's a few of late. Obviously, a few years ago, it was like Morrison going to Bayern Munich and all this stuff. Even before they played for Celtic's first team, there seems to be big clubs circling. You stick them in the Celtic's first team, they have 5 or 6 good games, and you've not tied down that contract yet because you want to see how they get on. Suddenly, one of these vultures can swoop in. I think they're in the halfway house with that side of it as well. They don't know whether to stick or twist with some of these guys in terms of thrusting them into the first team or not. I dare say, if the coefficient predictions that we were talking about at the top of the show become true, then we'll have to get used to seeing youngsters coming back into the fold, and it might be something. I think there's so much in the manager as well, mate. Like, what fucking point is it going to be great to be playing 19-year-olds for the B team that's gone in a couple of games for them or for 20 games for them, is knocking at the door when we're 5-0 up. But then when we're 5-0 up, then Luke McCowan's of the world, that's just the first name that's came to my head. Luke McCowan's of the world need to get their game time, and they're on £5,000 to £10,000 a week probably. So yeah, the board are wanting to see these guys actually playing football. You know what I mean? Not just sitting on the bench going, "What the fuck are we doing?" So then when is it you can play these youth players? When the league's already won? Take your foot off the gas. So were you not trying then? We've paid the season ticket for 19 home games and then we're not getting it. Or does it disrupt the flow of the team going into a cup final? Things like this. So I'm trying to find a nice spot from the manager's point of view, selection-wise, to play them. Kenneth Todd, I think you're right. West Ham just stole one of our up-and-coming youth players. And Philip DeMarco on the bus. You remember Big DeMarco? Cummings to West Ham, that's the one. That is the exact one I was thinking of. But yeah, You look at the vultures, mate. Cummings came on against Aston Villa. I think it was the Champions League. Is that right?
Yeah,
That was only 15 minutes he played in that. West Ham had already made their mind up they were signing before that, though, because they'd seen enough in the B team. That's how many scouts there are now out there. So you put a Celtic youth player into the first team when they're not on a first team contract yet. These clubs just swoop in and take them if they do well. If they don't, the manager gets hounded for not taking the fixture seats enough and playing youth players.
It must be a frustrating one for Brendan, though, as well, mustn't it? Because one of his biggest attributes as a manager and a coach is bringing young players on and through. So I wonder if that's something that he's maybe looking at and thinking, I would like to have one more roll of the dice on another youngster and try and leave behind it another one for the future, another one like a James Forrest, for example, who didn't have the best of times at Celtic. He was a good player until Rodgers came in the first time around, but Rodgers made him a great player. And it was the same with Callum McGregor. He was on the periphery of the team before Brendan came in and was getting some game time. But then Brendan took him on to a whole new level as well. Tierney was already a bit more established, but again, you've seen what happened working with Rodgers with him too. And I know there are three big examples, and they've all done extremely well in their careers, and they're all obviously Celtic guys, I would say, in the sense that they weren't as easily lured away. I know Tierney ends up going to Arsenal further down the line, but I think part of that was just the money involved was insane, and it was just too good a move for him not to take. Whereas McGregor and Forrest have stayed at the club when there's clearly been interest from other suitors, I would imagine, over that period. But you just look at that, and it's quite interesting to me that when Brendan, comes back into the club, that one of his main attributes as a manager and a coach is bringing on young talent. I just wonder if he maybe looks at that academy and doesn't feel there's enough players in it that are at a level he feels is good enough, or whether it's a case he's looking at it like you're suggesting and doesn't.
It's a sum of all of it, mate. It's a sum of all of it. I think you're absolutely spot on to highlight what you just did there, mate. In terms of he's maybe not that impressive what he's seen, but I dare say the likes of Cummings probably, if he's going to West Ham, you'd think would be able to be someone that could get in around our bench. You would like to have thought Rocco Vata this season would have got minutes on the park had he stayed, things like this, but there maybe isn't as much quality as he would like there. And that makes then the risk even higher if he is to put maybe the best performing one into his team. We end up not getting a result or even a bad performance now. Let's be honest. Brendan's that good now, mate. He wins football matches and gets criticised because the performance level isn't good enough. So you could, see what you're dealing with that. Are you going to be taking a chance? I don't think so, mate. I don't think so.
An interesting one for you with Brendan as well. So obviously he won the treble obviously every season his first spell and had us very much on course for one before he left the first time around. He's not managed to achieve that this time around. By no means am I suggesting that you need to be winning trebles to be a successful Celtic manager. You do. But it almost does sometimes feel as if he's hamstrung a little bit by the fact he was so successful domestically last time around, that it's almost as if he doesn't win a treble this season and then he does leave in the summer, that'll be classed as a domestic failure this time around. And I just wonder if that is an opinion that we think will be shared amongst our support, as if Rodgers was to say win another cup double this season but fall short in one of the domestic tournaments again, will people look back on his domestic spell the second time around and think that actually wasn't as good? He's beginning to lose his touch. The old sort of expressions you hear about dinosaurs when it comes to managers and things like that. Does that sort of conversation end up beginning to happen? Because I've thought this before. Yeah, I just think he might end up being judged extremely harshly because he set the standards so high the first time around.
Yeah, I think you'll be acutely aware of that, Jonathan. And that if we're thinking these things, I'm sure the guy in the midst of it all is thinking them as well, right? I think that's fair. And I think that'll probably be, again, one of the mitigating factors. I'm not saying the main one, one of the mitigating factors as to why he's been so steadfast, that it will be just 3 years and no more. And I think he's going to dodge that bullet and get out. He does know when to get out at the right time. or the wrong time in some of our cases, but the right time for him in life. Just a big shout out as well. 420 somewhere comes in. Look at this, Jonathan. A member for 25 months.
Oh, wow.
But look, it's been trumped. Look at this. Ali, that's got to be the longest running membership on the channel. Ali, we can't thank you enough in the bus for that, man. That's fucking class, man. A member for 30 months on the bus. So a huge thank you to you for that, man. Nice one. Jonathan, a wee bit of fun before we go. As I say, there's no script that we can go in any. We talk about anything we want, really, at our own pace. The other thing I wanted to, did you see Lenny on Open Goal yet?
Oh, I've not seen that yet, no, but I'll need to get that.
Oh, I'm surprised at you. Yeah, you need to get that watched. We'll maybe revisit that next week. Are you about next week?
I'll be about next week.
Yeah, we'll get you on next week. We can talk about it then. It was quite interesting to say the least. I'll tell you one other wee random fact that I found out. Nothing to do with Celtic. Well, it is to do with Celtic. It was about Henrik Larsson. Right, you know how he scored in the third place playoff of the '94 World Cup when he had the dreads? Did you know that?
I did know that.
Yeah.
Bit before my time, but I do know that, yeah.
Do you know what I did not know, though? In the quarterfinals, to make the semi-finals in the first place, he scored the winning penalty in the shootout.
Well, there you go.
He scores Sweden's last penalty, then the other team miss.
There you go.
Did not know that. I had never even seen the penalty before. I was watching. I mean, this is how tragic my life is, ladies and gentlemen. Right? I was sitting watching fucking every goal at the '94 World Cup for some reason on my other screen the other night, sitting just like eating my dinner, just going, why am I watching this? I've got no idea, but I'm going to watch it anyway. Every single goal scored at the 1994 World Cup. And there it was. Henrik scored the winning penalty. Did not know that.
No.
In the quarterfinals, soon then get to the semis, get put out, but then get in the third, fourth place playoff, and they win that, and he scores in the third, fourth place playoff. Big legend, man.
He is one of those guys. Just he does a lot that people remember, but then he does an awful lot more that goes under the radar as well. Did Henrik, I think. I mean, if you were to go do a deep sea diving on his career, I'm sure you could uncover a few more moments that he's probably had that we've forgotten about just because the guy was such a genius, at the club. Be interesting to obviously see with Larsson as well, if he would ever, since we're just having chats about things, if he would ever come back to Celtic in any form of capacity. I don't think he'd ever be the manager, but I always wondered if he would end up potentially fancying a run in the coaching area if somebody that he like the look of potentially.
I don't think he could. I don't think he could. I think. Do you know what I think?
He could be a club ambassador. He could end up doing that route.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, even then, I think he likes the God status, mate. Like when Henrik jets in, it's like Larsson's here. Do you know what I mean? If you become club ambassador roles, like you just kind of become part of the wallpaper. Henrik's not part of the wallpaper, mate. He's statue material. Do you know what I mean? So he's like, no, you fucking know when I show up.
When he turns up.
He is the wall, not the wallpaper, indeed. Cheers, 420 somewhere. Top man, thank you so much. But yeah, I think it was just fascinating seeing that. I did not know that fact. I mean, that was like, remember another forgotten goal of his? He scored for Sweden against Italy at Euro 2000. He's just back for the double leg break.
Oh, yeah.
The amazing Italian team, Jonathan. And he does the foot over the ball, the wee drag over round the keeper, slots at home. Sweden lose 2-1. I think they were 2-0 down at the time. That was Henrik just back for the double leg break.
There wasn't much that guy couldn't do. He's a one-off gem. You'll never see that type of together again. And if you do, they'll be gone in the next transfer window as soon as it opens. Peter Law will be pushing them immediately out the door.
You wouldn't get 7 years. You don't get 7 years out of that. There was one other thing about a striker Michelle had said earlier, and I don't know if Michelle's still watching, but she says, hope the Shin Yamada rumours become more real. The stats are great, and what we need in a forward, it could be Kyogo 2.0 with a wee bang emoji.
I mean, I've not heard of Yamada, but Kyogo's interesting because he looks like he's back. He's going off to Birmingham now. So, again,
found his level. I don't think it was his level 2 years ago.
No.
But I think Championship England is his level. But I've watched the Kyogo last 18 months.
Yeah, I think since Brendan's came into Celtic, I think Kyogo has regressed. I'm not saying the two things necessarily are aligned in that way.
No, they're not correlated. No. But yeah, it's in that period, undeniably.
Yeah, I think certainly Ange maybe he probably preferred playing under Ange. I think he was one of those types of players that liked how Ange looked after them. I think, and he's maybe struggled a little bit to adapt with Brendan. And on top of that, I think he's maybe just regressed slightly as a player, which does happen.
I think he has
at some point in your career too. So obviously, be interesting. We're certainly going to need another striker. I think that's absolutely someone that needs strength, and I think Brendan will want to put Maeda back out wide next season. I think you get the best out of Dyson when he's playing out on the wide areas, particularly if you lose Kuhn, then you're another winger down on the flank. You're going to need options out there. And obviously, Ida came in for a lot of criticism last year based on his performances at times. I mean, still a young boy. He might come good. I still think there is a player in there, but I think it's a lot to put on him as just the sort of sole main striker, if you want. I still don't class Maeda really as a striker, despite how good a season he had last year. I still can't shake the feeling whether that was a one-off or not with Maeda. I feel like he's a bit of an unknown. He can have moments of brilliance, and then he has moments like the Scottish Cup final where he goes clean through and goal and doesn't finish it, whereas a killer striker buries that every day of the week. So I think that's something we'll need to look at. I have seen rumours, and I don't think it's been brought up yet in the comments, about Bhoycie Russell. That's another one that
yes.
has linked. I think I've seen 4 to 5 million is what the quoted fee is. Proven striker domestically. I think the type of striker that could do a job for us at European level. Not the sexiest of names by any stretch of the imagination, but neither were guys like Scott McDonald, and they chipped in with some big goals in Europe as well as.
I think Bhoycie would do very well in a Brendan Rodgers team. I think he would like to move back to Scotland as well. If it's not worked out in Spain, you go back to where you're from, and you go to the biggest club in the country. It makes sense, that deal for me, mate. It makes total sense for me, man.
And it's a good deal as well for everyone involved. It's not an overly expensive one for Celtic either.
Well, it is overly expensive for Celtic.
Well, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. That's more like it. Yes.
It shouldn't be. It's a perfectly feasible deal to put together that's well within our remits, both financially and indeed addressing an area of the squad that badly needs looked at. And speaking of strikers as well, it was interesting to see being linked with a move for, was it 9 million quid? I think I read today.
Apparently they rejected it.
It's been rejected.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know they'd been rejected.
Kent have rejected apparently.
Have they checked? Is it definitely the right guy?
Mate, I don't care what anyone says. He was fucking pish for us, mate. Do you know what? Some of these players will suit different countries, different clubs. He didn't suit us, mate. He was pish.
No, he wasn't any good.
He came in the back of Giakoumakis and...
Serious downgrade.
Who would you rather have? Because Giakoumakis is obviously batted his eyelids at Celtic. Bhoycie right now is batting his eyelids at Celtic. We all know that's what he's really saying. Let's go with Celtic. Yeah. Who would you rather have, Bhoycie or Giakoumakis right now?
Oh, it's a hard one. You know what you're getting with Giakoumakis in some ways because you've had him at the club before and you know he can hit the ground running, and there was times when he was here last time I was banging the drum that he should have started games ahead of Kyogo, and I never felt it.
Well, we're not just you. Don't you take your word for it, face. No.
Take my word for it. Giakoumakis was a good striker. He was somebody that would have done a job for us if he got given more opportunities, I think, in the bigger games. But Kyogo tended to get the nod ahead of him when he was fit, which must have been an enormous sense of frustration. I think there may well have been differences of opinion between him and Postecoglou at the time that maybe forced his exit as well. But then you've got Bhoycie on the other side, again, proven domestic striker, done extremely well when he was at Aberdeen. Confidence might be a little bit lower with the season he's had, but if there's one man that I would trust to get somebody's confidence back up in record quick time, it's Brendan Rodgers. And I'd also look at that and think Bhoycie offers you potentially something a little bit different. You know, you're not going back and signing another old player. I feel like we've done that a lot recently. So
What about Edward?
Eddie.
He's been linked again, mate.
It's always going to be linked, isn't he? He's always going to be linked. I mean, I think that would be definitely an interesting one if we were to go down the route of bringing Edward in. I think a lot of Celtic fans have moved on from Watson Edward, so I'd be interested to see.
So do I don't think that would be a returning hero. I think Giakoumakis, I mean, there's someone in here saying Irishman in Porto. In fact, it is in Porto. Irishman in Porto 2002. He says, Gigi would come in as Billy Big Bollocks. Do you know what? I quite like that.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Before you'd even said that, as soon as I read that comment, I was like, Russell's going to be like, yeah, that's what you were going to say about him anyway.
What's not to like about that? Like, you want someone to go, fucking look at me, I'm the man. Give me that fucking ball. I love that. I think it's so important to have that. And yeah, he would come in as Billy Big Bollocks, but the one thing with Giakoumakis is he'd back it up.
I think he'd be a bit more like a Dembele type under Brendan as well. I think he would back up the
mate, he'd be a monster under Rodgers. Be real.
And a pipe bomb on the interviews as well, because I just think he would be one of those guys who's never
mate.
to say what he thinks.
He's class that way. I think Giakoumakis and Bhoycie, I would go Giakoumakis. Just.
Yeah.
Even though Giakoumakis is a bit older, I think Giakoumakis comes into Celtic at the age of 30. 3 years, he scores more goals than Bhoycie.
Yeah, there's every possibility.
He scores more goals than Adam Ido over the next 3 years.
You think Celtic fans will get a bit tired, though, if they're bringing more players back than they've had before? Because that's just happening.
That aspect I totally get, but you can't... I do get what you're saying, but I suppose I'm not factoring that in my decision making when I'm just looking at two players that potentially could join Celtic. The fact Giakoumakis has played for us before is probably irrelevant.
Yeah.
Albeit it's the stats that you would factor into it, but forget it's Celtic that he played for before, but we know what he can do in Scotland, we know what Bhoycie can do in Scotland. I think Giakoumakis at Celtic would still do well. Albeit, I'd be very happy if we signed Bhoycie and Bhoycie. Do you know that? I really would. He was a player I thought we should have got last summer. I think Celtic got confused again last summer with the striker thing. They wanted to play hard to get on Ida when it's meant to be the other way around.
They made a mess of the Adam Ida deal, and they actually put more pressure on Ida when he came in the door.
Ida didn't get his pre-season. People forget. He didn't get his pre-season. He didn't decide his fee, which was double what we would have gotten for at the end of the season. We got him for $5 million at the end of the season. Then, of course, I think Kyogo got injured. Suddenly we were back at the bidding war. They're like, your main man injured, is he? He's your only striker. $9 million, please. It's like, we got took to school on that, mate. Don't let them tell you we're amazingly run. We're not amazingly run. Celtic's not amazingly run. Honestly, it's not. We spoke about the open goals that they have as a board, or they've had the benefit of, a signing policy that presents you with 1 in 5 belters. Isn't amazing? A club that is qualified for the Champions League, 50% maybe of the time, the opportunities it's had, 45, 50%. That's not amazing.
No.
It's just not. So don't let anyone bullshit you all that nonsense either. Right, that's an hour. I'll do. That's enough. Jonathan, it's been great to have you back on, mate. I've loved it.
It's been good to be back. It's been good to be
Good
back.
to be back on. We'll get you back on more often, mate. As I say, it doesn't necessarily need to be every Tuesday. We could do it Monday one week. We could do it Wednesday. Do the fuck we want, mate.
Yeah.
And if it's not on 1 week, nobody cares. We'll just go the week after or the week after that. I'm eased. This is.
We'll just keep it interesting. Nobody knows when we're going to turn up going forward.
New bus, new danger. I think that was the Labour Party line in the 90s. New Labour, new danger.
That's a terrible line to finish on. I hope you've got something better up your sleeve.
I don't.
Wellllll Russell.
Up and down. Up and down. Right, we'll see you all later. We're out of here. Bye.